About a year and a half ago, I found myself in between. And I was walking my dogs and heard from God, I think, that day, that he wanted me to be in the Methodist church and he wanted me to be in a church in my community. I prayed about that for about 6 months and kind of wandered around and visited different churches for about 6 months. And then one day, last April or early May, I was driving by this church. And I felt like I heard God say at that time that this is where he wanted me to be. So the first thing I did when I got to work is I wanted to know if this little church in my community had a website. And so I looked up Mt Carmel, and they did. And the very first thing I saw was a picture of Pastor Cindy. The next thing I saw was like us on Facebook. And so I did. And I went to the Facebook page, and the first thing that I saw was a picture of Pastor Cindy, and she was baptizing some of the teenagers in the river. And it was a powerful image for me. It was an image of love. It was an image of gentleness. It was an image of warmth and a welcoming one for me. And just by looking at that picture, I felt like I had found my church home even before I had ever stepped foot in the door. I think in this instance, the fact that the pastor was a woman made a huge impact on me. I grew up in churches where I wasn't able to speak because I was female. That the only men were able to speak when we were inside the building. And I grew up being told that there were things that I couldn't do because I was a girl. And so over time, I developed a huge chip on my shoulder, and I did things, and now as I look back, I wonder what my motives were for doing them. You know, were they to prove that I could do anything that a man could do? I was the first woman in my family to go to college, first woman to get a master's degree, played every sport that they let me play, and probably would have attempted football if they would have let me. I grew up in an environment where being told I can't because of my gender. And I even turned away from God because of that, because I felt like God didn't like women or girls as much as he liked men or boys, that he had a preference. And I was mad at him for a long, long time. And the fact that our pastor was a female just gave me hope that these things are changing, that these gender biases are changing over time. And we can be part of that.